administration and Indian economy, a critical explanation of how Donald Trump's second term could reshape India's economic landscape.
Exactly, Nitish. With Trump back in power in 2024, his America First policies promise more disruption and opportunity for India. Our research examines his dual-edged impact and we are excited to share our findings with you. Let's get started.
There is a quote by Clemens von Metternich: "When America sneezes, the whole world catches a cold." This couldn't be truer than today. Trump's return brings unpredictability, and as India's largest trading partner with $120 billion in bilateral trade financial year 2024, the US moves matter to us.
Our focus is on Trump's America First approach. Think tariffs, visa curves, and supply chain shifts. We are asking, what are the risks for India? Could there be benefits? How do global players like China fit in? And how can India strengthen ties with the US? By the end, we will propose solutions to navigate these turbulences.
Here is our roadmap. We start introduction by highlighting US-India ties, outlining our objectives, explaining our methodology, reviewing our literature, and presenting our findings. And at the end, we'll wrap up with a conclusion. Think of it as a journey from context to actual insight.
And here's the teaser. Could India face a $6 billion trade loss or gain $50 billion in FDI? Stick with us to find out. So, the US is India's largest trade partner with $120 billion in financial year 24 and with $54.7 billion exports and $28.5 billion imports. This is the briefing from the India Briefings article from 2025. And we can see that there is a balanced relationship. But Trump's first term from 2017 to 2021 come up with his policies like protectionism and how it impacted India.
During that protectionist era, Trump slapped 25% tariff on steel, 10% to aluminium, and yanked India's GSP status, which costing us over $6 billion duty-free exports. Visa curbs hit our agri sector too, yet harmony had. Now, with Trump 2.0, challenges like internationalism and MAGA bolder than ever.
Okay, so what does this mean? It clearly means tariff wars, visa curves, and supply chain shifts. We can clearly see that it also comes up with challenges but opportunities also. What are the challenges here? So the challenges are export volatility and increase in immigration restrictions, whereas the opportunities are collaborative economic development and strengthening defense sector. We also come up with our policy responses, which you will see forward in our upcoming slides and in our findings.
That can speak. We have stopped your time. You look at that side. Then we'll give you your time.
Our goals are vividly clear. First, we analyze how protectionism hit exports, pharma at $20 billion, IT and agriculture. Second, we assess the H-1B visa curves and where 12 billion remittances are at stake. Third, we evaluate energy ties under Trump's fossil fuel focus.
Okay, so fourth, we will discuss about investigating digital trade conflicts, that is, digital service tax and AI laws. Fifth, assessing defense opportunity via Indo-Pacific strategy and Quad, and finally, we will propose policy responses for resilience and autonomy with an overarching aim of balancing short-term losses with long-term gains.
Now, let's ground our work in existing research. Scholars like Ashok Mathur, Vivek Day, Somesh Mathur, and Acha Srivastava highlight Trump 2.0 impacts on India's economy. On trade, they note tariffs like 25% on steel made India hard again, with the 6 billion GSP loss still stinging. On immigration, H1B rejection rates soared to 6% to 30% during Trump's term, according to NASSCOM report 121. As you can see, it adversely impacted our IT sector.
Okay, so Pushkar is one of the scholars who also stated out the digital economy impacts, that how Trump's era is impacting the digital economy. The increase in digital service tax disputes strain tech ties between both the nations, which is India and US, and it also comes with opportunities. So what are the opportunities here? So one of the literature work clearly states that this China plus one policy, which is that the countries are shipping from China to other nations for manufacturing the products. So this China plus one strategy could boost India's manufacturing sector as well as the export sector. Now there are gaps also. Gaps are still there. So what are these gaps and what things are being overlooked? So the things which are being overlooked are the possible financial impact on the Indian market and the currency and the value of rupee being depreciated. And the second one is the possible competition which is from Vietnam, Indonesia and Mexico for FDI, which stands for foreign direct investment. And finally, the impacts of projected future domestic political instability and volatility on Indian economy. That is the instability in US economy, because there could be shift in midterm elections of 2026 that the parties change and the picture completely flips. So this is a methodology. Our methodology comes up with the mixed method approach. Here we talk about the qualitative method and quantitative method. The qualitative method comprises expert opinions and media discourse, whereas our quantitative method is data-driven and factual from the data which we have derived from the IMF, RBI, and NASSCOM.
Adopting the analytic approach, we compare Trump 1.0 term with Trump 2.0 term and break down sectors like IT, trade, and defense. This gives us a data-driven approach of what are the coming challenges and objectives to India and how India can respond.
So, here our first findings are about trade and economic relations. We can clearly see that in the agriculture sector there are tariffs. India is imposing 39% tariffs, whereas US is only imposing 5% tariffs. So there is this analysis that US come up with reciprocal tariffs for things which it imports from India, for example spices, rice, etc. And as well as it can pressure India to import more, such as in sectors like agriculture, defense equipments, etc.
Also, as we explained earlier, Trump's first term brought 25% tariff on steel and 10% on aluminium, and we also lost GSP. And secondly, you can also see that Trump's deficit, US trade deficit, soared from approx 44 and 43% to it soared to 5.4% in 2024. So this gives incentive to Trump to raise reciprocal tariff to India.
Okay, so here are our policy measures which we are providing is boost PLI schemes, that is production linked incentives. So there is this thing that there is $30 billion gains so far in PLI, and also we can diversify our trade to EU, ASEAN and Gulf nations, and we can also make our domestic economy strong by promoting the initiatives like Make in India.
Foreign direct investment. Foreign direct investment is a bright spot. US-China decoupling could bring $20 billion to India by 2029. We can say packaging hubs. but regulatory barriers and competition from Vietnam, Mexico, and Indonesia loom large.
Okay, so let us come to our fixes. What we are providing is a single window FDA clearance cut approval by 40%. Now what is this 40%? This 40% is by 3 months. Within 3 months they will be providing with FDA clearance. These cut approvals within 3 months. And also tax incentives for key sectors. What are these key sectors? These key sectors are semiconductors and the digital economy. And the third approach is improve infrastructure by spending up to $50 billion. And India's FDI from the US was $55 billion from 2020 to 2024. And you know what? We can double it by applying these measures.
That's good. Okay, also I can ask you the next slide is also. Wow. After competition. Yes, sir.
Okay, so our next findings talk about immigration and H-1B visas. We can clearly see that these H-1B visa denials rise from before Trump it was 6%, but after Trump it is 30%, and even in the Trump 2.0 era it can worsen more. It is impacting India's IT sector by raising pressure on the companies like TCS for about $500 million yearly.
So going forward to policy measures, we suggest leveraging sport for user timelines. You can see that Google, Microsoft employs 50,000 Indians. So they can also talk for a pushback for visa talks. Secondly, they can also negotiate India's specific visa model, promoting hybrid work. But like I would say that for short-term remote works and then also online work from home. And it saved $2 million in 2024.
So the next thing in our finding is fiscal and financial impacts. So Trump rate hike in 2018 cut inflows by $12 billion and tanked the rupee 8%. In 2025, $15 billion could flee. Our $6 to $6 billion reserves held, but volatility is still clear.
We can counter it with no dollar reserves, such as yuan, euro, yen, and a rupee trade, which India is only doing with 52 nations and saving $5 billion for an exchange cost. It is the cost and it is expensive, I would say, incurred when converting currency into another currency, such as commissions and spreads charged by brokers and I would say the brokers or the dealers. And I agree that stock market like Nifty could go over, but we are resilient. So, coming to the domestic political of US, we can see that Congress drove 20% of Trump 1.0 tariffs currently with 53 Republican Senate seat in 2024, midterms of 2026 could shift path and a 2028 Democratic Party win might reverse policies.
Okay. Now let's move forward to our policy measures. What we are proposing is that India should engage in bipartisan leaders. What do we mean by bipartisan leaders? That India should engage with both the parties of that particular nation instead of favoring only one party. So that and we can see that in 2023, a $3 billion trade deal worked just because of this. And India should also lock in multi-year trade pacts. That is the key to stability. So let's wrap up. Trump 2.0 brings challenges like high tariffs, visa curves, and financial volatility, threatening India's exports, IT sector, and investment climate. But India's strong global position, expanding industrial base, and proactive policies like PLI and $650 billion forex reserves provide resilience.
So, there is opportunity too. US-China supply chain shifts can surge India's manufacturing if we improve ease of doing business. Strengthening ties with EU, ASEAN, Middle East, Gulf nations offers export growth. By balancing diplomacy, economic resilience, and industrial growth, India can not only withstand Trump's policies but emerge as global economic powerhouse, targeting a 5 trillion GDP by 2028. So that's a take. Thank you for listening with due patience. India faces challenges but has huge potential under Trump 2.0.
So what are key takeaways? Our key takeaway is balance Trump's policy to hit a $5 trillion economy by 2025. So that's it. You can ask questions to us.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. That was an enlightening presentation. Well, ma'am and sir, they are open for the interaction. And participants, you can also ask questions if there are any. First, let the chair ask. Okay, participants, is there any question? Yeah, sit down.
Yeah, sure.
Take the one. Firstly, I want to ask a question that in the policy measures you mentioned that we need to diversify trade to EU, Asia and the Gulf nation. But considering the European Union has something called carbon border adjustment mechanism, to which the India will be whatever India will be exporting to them, for example the steel and iron, there will be a tariff that are actually being imposed on India. So how the diversification with European Union and selling it to the Gulf nation will itself help, because it will essentially be imposing tariffs in the form of CPA.
So, you are right, totally right. But we can say that recently Ursula von der Leyen, the EU chair, recently came to India to talk about this only. So, there are measures, whole world is, I would say, scared of US policies which the Trump is adopting. So, everyone wants a proper cooperation. So, this will probably mitigate in the near future. And EU is talking. EU's talks, I would say, they were halted for some period, but they are started again. And there will be, I would say, compromises between both the EU and India, and also the Middle East and also the Asian nations.
Any other question from the participants? Anyone?
What was your take on
Siddharth?
What was your take on falling of Indian rupee?
Okay. Ma'am, initially it is falling because it is so sudden for these tariffs to come. But if India takes the approaches of diversifying its trade or come forward with its incentives so that it can attract other nations to come into it, or it can boost its manufacturing sector so that it can also in near future it can boost in long term.
Have you looked into the situation of Venezuelan import that we are doing of coffee and the impact of that can happen on the Indian rupee? Have you looked into this part? So, Indian economy, we are the biggest importer of Venezuelan oil, and US has basically mentioned that because of the this tension between Venezuela and US, they have mentioned that whoever is importing oil from Venezuela, they are going to impose restrictions even further. Whatever the tariff they are imposing right now, they are going to impose even further restrictions on these countries, and one of the country that is doing this business is India. So it is, if that is going to happen, then it is obviously going to affect your Indian rupee even further. Already we have this weakening of our Indian rupee, and if this happens, then it is going to hamper our Indian rupee even further. So I suggest that you should look into that part also, because you are dealing, your title of this paper is Trump's administration and Indian economy. So when we are talking about Indian economy, then Indian rupee should be given more importance, and whatever policies Trump administrations are forming, you should look into that कि उसका क्या impact आपके Indian rupee पे आता है, right?
Your paper is very good, and the structure of paper is also very good. There are few suggestions for the improvement that you can discuss personally. But there should be proper citation inside the paper, in the body of the paper. That's first thing. Second, AI. A lot of investment happening in the AI in US, and we are going to have a potentially very high impact on that in Indian economy. So there are a lot of brainstorming inside India that how we should deal with it, right? So that was missing in your paper. So you should inculcate that dimension in your paper. Yes, yeah, very good. Thank you.